I'm Miranda, and last Saturday, I attended my sister Vanessa's 10th anniversary party. The ballroom sparkled with champagne flutes and laughter as I admired her seemingly perfect marriage. But when I returned from the bathroom, I caught Vanessa's reflection in the window. Her hand hovered over my glass, dropping something inside with a secretive smile. My stomach nodded. I didn't breathe. Something cold slid beneath my skin. I didn't hesitate. I walked straight to the table, picked up the glass like nothing had happened, and carried it to the other side of the room. Nathan stood by the wall of gifts, running his fingers along a card. I called his name. When he turned, I was already in motion, switching his whiskey with my champagne, offering a toast, and watching him drink. He smiled, oblivious. If you've ever faced betrayal from family, where would you draw the line? The moment I sat the empty flute back on the table, I felt the weight of something irreversible settle in my chest. Growing up with Vanessa wasn't easy. She was 3 years older, sharper, louder, sheenier. When I made cheerleading squad, she convinced the captain I had cheated during tryouts. When I brought home my first boyfriend, she offered to help him with chemistry. 2 weeks later, they were dating. She never apologized outright. Her version of regret came in the form of sad eyes and performative tears. Our parents bought it every time, but even when I knew better, I kept hoping she'd change. I wanted a sister. When she met Nathan during her senior year of college, I thought maybe she'd finally grown up. He was calm, grounded, nothing like the people she usually gravitated toward. At their wedding, I stood beside her in satin, believing for the first time in years that she might actually be happy. And if she was happy, maybe she wouldn't feel the need to hurt me anymore. That hope dissolved slowly, like sugar in champagne. The anniversary celebration at the Bellevue was her masterpiece. Ice swans, floating candles, live string quartet. She was radiant, surrounded by admiration, and still found time to whisper, "Love the dress. Rental, right?" I responded with a smile. Years of practice. The rest of the evening blurred at first. Our parents, old friends, Vanessa performing affection like a seasoned actress. But Nathan, he noticed me, genuinely, asked about work, complimented my resilience. His hand lingered longer than expected when he hugged me. That's when her eyes narrowed. It's always been like this. Vanessa doesn't need to be the only person in the room. She just needs to be the one you're watching. By the time dinner began, the air was brittle with tension. I was seated far from the family, at a table with distant cousins and coworkers she knew I barely tolerated. Nathan noticed when he pulled me aside near the terrace. I thought he was going to ask if I was okay. Instead, he confessed marriage had become a performance, he said. She refused therapy. She refused reality. He felt trapped, exhausted. "She's watching us," he whispered, stepping away. That was the first moment I felt fear. Not the childish fear of a sister's cruelty, something deeper, something unfamiliar. When I returned to my table, I found my glass refilled and a single chocolate-covered strawberry beside it, perched on a napkin that read, "For my favorite sister, love." But on s'aime, a chill moved through me. Then, in the window's reflection behind my shoulder, I saw her, noticing the opportunity, not noticing I could see her. I watched her remove something from her clutch. A tablet. A powder. It vanished into my glass in seconds. She smiled, like a magician completing a trick. Everything in me went still. And then I moved. I didn't look back at Vanessa. I walked the perimeter of the ballroom with a champagne flute in hand, nerves vibrating beneath my skin like a trapped wasp. It was instinctual, the way my body responded adrenaline, breathlessness, cold clarity. I scanned the room, searching not for confrontation, but for confirmation. My sister had just tried to drug me. That was no exaggeration, no poetic framing. She had done it. And I had watched. What now? My fingers trembled slightly as I traced the glass's rim. I needed more than suspicion. I needed control. And in that moment, only one thing made sense. Nathan. He stood near the gift table again, flipping through a small photo album someone had left as part of their present. Alone. For once, I crossed the room deliberately. We should make a toast, I said, but my voice didn't sound like mine. It was smoother, slower. Not drunk, but drenched in something far more dangerous. He looked at me with curiosity, smiling in that gentle way of his. When he reached for his whiskey, I placed my flute in his hand instead. "To 10 more years," I murmured, like it was a wish. He raised the glass and drank. There it was, the switch, the answer, the risk. My heart galloped in my chest, and for a second, I couldn't hear the music. I stood perfectly still as he returned to mingling. And Vanessa spotted us. Her eyes landed on my face first, then drifted to the empty flute in Nathan's hand. She smiled. It was a slow, satisfied smile, the kind you can't fake unless you're certain you've won. She didn't know. She thought I had drunk it. For the next several minutes, I wandered the party in a haze. My hand brushed through conversations I barely registered. I nodded at people. I laughed at a cousin's off-color joke. But inside, I was watching the countdown. The sedative would take time. Right. I thought back to her roommate in college, to that suspiciously timed food poisoning. Vanessa always had a plan, a reason, an angle. She didn't lash out blindly. No, she liked plausible deniability, drama that could pass as accident. Her favorite kind of destruction was quiet and deniable. The room spun slightly, not from any substance, but from the gravity of what I had done. This wasn't like high school, when she tampered with my science fair project or stole my friends one by one. This was chemical. This was criminal. And yet, I had made a choice. I had given it to her husband, Nathan. And if something went wrong, I told myself I'd only done it to observe, to confirm. But even as I watched him across the room, I couldn't deny a sick part of me wanted her to watch him fall apart, to see her perfect illusion shatter under the very weight of her own cruelty. That's when I felt it. A pang of guilt so sharp it forced me into a side hallway. I pressed my back to the wall and closed my eyes. Was I any better than her? Was this revenge? Or was it justice? The memory of Nathan's voice echoed in my head. This marriage suffocated me. He hadn't asked for this. He had confided in me, trusted me, and I had used him as a shield. No, a weapon. I opened my eyes to the soft sounds of crystal clinking and the violinist's melody rising. When I returned to the ballroom, I saw Nathan laughing too loudly at something someone had said. His cheeks flushed, his balance slightly off. The sedative was working, and Vanessa, across the room, suddenly stopped mid-laugh, watching him with a puzzled expression. She tilted her head, confused. Then she looked at me. She hadn't expected this, and now her smile cracked. The first time I realized Vanessa was dangerous, I was 16. She borrowed my diary and read it aloud at a sleepover. Every secret, every fear, every detail about my first kiss with Jeremy Thomas, all performed for laughter. The next day, she cried, claimed it was meant as a joke, said I was too sensitive. That's what it always was with her jokes. Misunderstandings, accidents. Nothing ever stuck because nothing was ever provable. But tonight I saw her do it. I saw her drug my glass. And now, as I watched Nathan begin to unravel, her expression twisted from confusion to dawning horror. Her mouth parted slightly, then shut. She didn't know yet what exactly had happened. just that something was wrong, and it had slipped out of her control. It was subtle at first. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck like it ached. His shoulders slouched. His eyes grew glossy. He tried to shake it off, smiling too widely, speaking a little slower than before. But I saw it. I knew what to look for. Vanessa's movements sharpened. She drifted toward him with purpose, like a host checking on the hors d'oeuvres, poised, effortless. But her eyes betrayed her. She hovered as he greeted a couple from her yoga studio. He laughed, then stumbled, catching himself on a chair. I saw her flinch. Then I saw her look at me, not with confusion now, with accusation. It was like she'd pieced together a puzzle too late. I could almost see the logic turning in her mind. I hadn't drunk the champagne. I'd been alone with Nathan. He was acting off. There were no coincidences in Vanessa's world. If something didn't go according to plan, someone was to blame. And I had just become her variable. I stepped backward, deeper into the crowd, as she made her way toward me. My heart pounded, but I kept my face still. If she confronted me now, it would become a scene. That wasn't her style. But she did stop in front of me. Smile taut, voice sweet, enjoying yourself. Her tone slid over me like a scalpel. Absolutely, I replied, keeping my voice even. Your husband was just keeping me company. Such a thoughtful man. There was a flicker, like her mask slipped for a millisecond. Then she smiled wider. Yes, Nathan's always been. Accommodating, a weakness, really. I wouldn't call kindness a weakness. Her eyes narrowed. You seem remarkably steady on your feet. Champagne, not to your liking. The way she said it, the way her voice dipped. That was her confirmation. It was delicious. I said. Nathan thought so too when we traded drinks for our toast. She froze. A full second of silence. You what? She whispered. I leaned in slightly. Is there a problem? Her pupils dilated, and for a heartbeat. She looked terrified, then furious. You had no right, she hissed. You don't understand what you've done. I think I understand perfectly. She looked over her shoulder, scanning the room for Nathan. He was at the bar now, gesturing animatedly to the bartender about something, slurring slightly, laughing too loud. Panic flared in her eyes. This isn't over, she muttered, before turning and disappearing into the crowd. I stood there, breath caught between guilt and grim satisfaction. She had tried to poison me, and I had flipped the knife in her hand. But the weight of it was beginning to settle. The lines we'd crossed, the masks we'd dropped. This wasn't just about rivalry anymore. Something inside us, both of us, had curdled, and there was no going back. I stayed in the shadows, just beyond the chandelier light, watching the aftermath unfold. Every part of me was on edge. Senses sharpened, muscles coiled. I felt like a glass teetering on the edge of a high shelf. One wrong breath and I'd shatter. Nathan swayed gently at the bar, trying to hold a conversation with a guest whose name he'd clearly forgotten. He laughed mid-sentence, then paused, blinking slowly, as if the thought had simply slipped from his mind. Vanessa had joined him now. Her smile was bright, too bright. She touched his arm gently, almost maternally, but I saw the tension in her fingers. She was trying to assess the damage, trying to contain it. He muttered something and stumbled against the counter. She steadied him with both hands and looked around quickly, her gaze brushing over me for just a second too long. I turned away. I didn't want to see the fear in her eyes because it echoed something in me. I had done this, not the drugging that was hers, but the switch. That choice was mine, and the reality of what might happen to Nathan if things spiraled further. It was starting to haunt me. I slipped into the hallway near the coat check. Cold air from the exit door seeped in through a faulty seal, cutting through the heat blooming in my chest. What was I expecting? A a small embarrassment, a loose tongue, Vanessa's mask cracking for once in front of her curated world. Not this. Not the scene beginning to unfold back in that ballroom. From around the corner, I heard raised voices not shouting, but the tight urgency of a couple fighting while pretending not to. I crept back toward the edge of the ballroom and peeked. Nathan was arguing with Vanessa now, voice slurred, hands gesturing too wildly. She tried to laugh it off, placing a steadying hand on his chest, but he brushed it away, not roughly, just impatiently. He looked tired, confused, lost. Then, as the string quartet began playing again, Nathan stepped backward and knocked over a centerpiece. Water and lilies spilled across a tablecloth. The guests flinched, startled. But Nathan only blinked at the mess. A few people chuckled nervously. Vanessa looked like she might faint. Nathan swayed again and muttered something I couldn't catch, but his eyes sought mine across the room, like a compass orienting. And suddenly, his face lit up. "Miranda," he called. Too loud. "There you are." All heads turned. I froze. He made his way toward me, bumping shoulders, offering clumsy apologies. Vanessa hissed after him, trying to pull him back. But he slipped from her grip like silk. When he reached me, his pupils were huge. He smiled, bleary-eyed. "We need to dance," he said, grabbing my hand with enthusiasm. "You still owe me one." I opened my mouth to protest, but he was already leading me to the center of the floor. The quartet pivoted mid-song into something more upbeat. Nathan moved like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Jerky, unfocused. And then, without warning, he dipped me. Too far, too fast. I gasped, catching myself, barely avoiding a fall. Laughter rippled through the room, but it wasn't amused. It was awkward. Concerned. Vanessa stood frozen by the bar, her arms stiff by her sides, her eyes locked on me, no on him. Something in her had cracked, and in that moment, I felt no victory, no satisfaction, just a strange, low ache in my chest. This was not justice. This was spectacle. This was the beginning of something I could no longer control. The gift table collapsed like a slow-motion disaster boxes tumbling, ribbons unraveling, shattered glass scattering across the floor like confetti from a cursed celebration. Nathan had stumbled backward into it after attempting a dramatic twirl on the dance floor. For a second, the room went still, like everyone was holding their breath in perfect synchrony. Then gasps broke the silence, followed by a few awkward claps that died almost immediately. Vanessa was at his side in an instant, crouching beside him, her voice sharp and low. From where I stood, I couldn't hear the words, but the tension in her jaw told me everything. She was hissing orders through a smile that wouldn't quite hold. Nathan blinked up at her. "It's too hot in here," he mumbled, swiping sweat from his brow. Room's spinning. Vanessa's hand trembled as she reached for a napkin. Our father, bless him, tried to salvage the moment, gesturing to the band to continue playing, murmuring reassurances to the guests now frozen in place. But I couldn't unsee it. Nathan was unraveling, and Vanessa was breaking. I moved closer. Instinct or guilt, I don't even know, pulling me forward. He was trying to stand, fumbling against the edge of a table, knocking over a votive candle in the process. Wax bled down the linen. "Darling, you've had too much," Vanessa said through gritted teeth, still smiling for the guests watching like spectators at a car crash. Nathan turned to her. His pupils were enormous. I didn't drink that much. He pointed in my general direction. "The champagne," with Miranda. After that, things got weird. Everyone heard it. All eyes turned to me. Vanessa's head whipped toward me so fast, I thought she'd snap her neck. Her mouth opened a threat, a plea, a scream. I'll never know, because just then, Nathan turned pale, swayed once, and dropped to his knees. A waiter tried to catch him, but it was too late. Nathan slumped onto his side, knocking over another tray of drinks. That did it. The party shattered. Voices erupted. Someone yelled for help. My mother rushed forward, her face blanched with panic, her nursing instincts kicking in. She crouched beside Nathan, calling his name, asking what year it was, where he was. His answers were jumbled, if they came at all. Vanessa knelt too, brushing my mother's hand aside. He's just had too much to drink, she insisted. He's fine. He just needs water. But her voice cracked on the last word. My father pushed through the crowd. We're calling an ambulance. No, Vanessa said quickly, too quickly. We don't need to make this worse. This is already a disaster, he snapped. And then, like gravity shifted in the room, all attention turned to me. Vanessa stood. Her face was pale, but her eyes were fire. You switched the drinks, she said flatly. I met her gaze. Didn't flinch. Yes, gasps. A few murmurs. Our mother looked up at me, stunned. Miranda. I saw her, I said quietly. She drugged my champagne. I saw her in the reflection. You're lying. Vanessa's voice rose, shrill now. You don't know what you saw. I watched you. I cut in. You dropped something into my drink. So I gave it to Nathan. The silence that followed was bottomless. Vanessa looked like someone had peeled her skin back. You gave it to him, she whispered. You had no idea what was in it. No, I said. But I had a pretty good guess. Our father stepped between us, his voice low and lethal. Both of you. Enough. Help's on the way. We'll deal with this, all of this, later. Vanessa stood frozen. My mother sobbed quietly as she stroked Nathan's hair. Somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail, and I stood in the middle of a ballroom built for love, drowning in the fallout of my revenge. The paramedics arrived like a silent storm, efficient, swift, clinical. Their presence altered the atmosphere instantly. What had been a glamorous evening devolved into an emergency scene, with tuxedos and sequins replaced by latex gloves and oxygen masks. I stayed on the edge of the room as they surrounded Nathan. My breath caught when I saw him wince against the light being shone into his eyes. The lead paramedic's voice was calm, but clipped. Heart rate elevated, pupils dilated, slurred speech, suspected ingestion, possible interaction with alcohol. I saw Vanessa open her mouth, then close it again. One of the medics turned to her. Has your husband taken anything? Prescription, miss. Recreational drugs. Vanessa hesitated. She didn't look at me. She looked at our mother. Then she said it. A sedative. One pill. It's mine, Ativan. I didn't mean for him to take it. The word sucked the air from the room. Another medic, younger, darker-eyed, looked up sharply. You gave him Ativan. No, she said. Not directly. She was cracking now, voice shaking, chest heaving in shallow breaths. It was for my sister, she whispered. I just wanted her to relax. That's all. Just calm down. The lead medic stiffened. Ma'am, you can't give anyone prescription medication without their knowledge. Especially combined with alcohol, that's incredibly dangerous. My father stepped in then, voice low, steady. Will he be okay? He's stable for now. We need to monitor his respiration. But benzodiazepines and alcohol together can suppress breathing. He needs to come with us. Now, Nathan was murmuring something under his breath, words I couldn't catch. His fingers twitched against the stretcher's side. One hand reached out blindly and landed on mine. I grasped it without hesitation. His grip was weak, but the pressure was real. Thank you, he rasped. It was all he said, but everything I needed to hear. They wheeled him toward the ballroom's entrance. One medic stabilizing the IV, another checking vitals. The room split to let them through. Guests murmured, some discreetly filming on their phones. The same people who'd clapped at the first toast were now watching a man being taken to the hospital for suspected poisoning. And they all knew something ugly had happened. As Nathan disappeared into the hallway, Vanessa turned to me. Her expression no longer held pride or venom, just ruin. "This is your fault," she whispered. "You made it public. You humiliated us." I didn't reply. What was there to say? Instead, I walked past her, past the guests who couldn't meet my eyes, and followed the gurney into the hallway. At the elevator, I stopped. A paramedic turned to me. "You family." "Yes." He gave me a tight nod. "He asked for you." Vanessa didn't come. My parents followed at a distance, somber, shaken, as we waited in the emergency bay at the hospital. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I sat beside Nathan in the examination room, watching machines monitor the man who had once been a stranger and now felt like something else. Not a lover, not quite a victim, something in between. Someone who had been caught in the same web I'd lived in since childhood, spun by the same woman who could laugh while lying and lie while laughing. Hours passed. Doctors explained risks, asked questions. I answered what I could. When they asked about consent, about intention, I told the truth. And when they asked if Vanessa had done it before, I hesitated. Then I told them what I remembered the roommate in college. The patterns, the way Vanessa needed to win even when no one else was playing. They took notes and told me they'd have to report it. By the time dawn pressed its pale hands against the windows, I knew nothing would ever return to the way it had been. And maybe, finally, that was a good thing. The waiting room was quiet in the way only hospitals manage sterile, humming with machines behind closed doors, lit by the cold honesty of fluorescent light. My parents sat across from me, hollowed out. My mother clutched a styrofoam cup of black coffee that had long since gone cold. My father stared at the linoleum floor like it had betrayed him. Vanessa sat alone, 2 seats away. Her dress was rumpled. Mascara smeared faintly beneath her eyes. She hadn't spoken in over an hour. I didn't want to look at her, but I couldn't stop. A nurse approached us. "Mr. Calloway is awake. He's resting comfortably. He asked for Miranda." Vanessa flinched. My father looked between us and opened his mouth, maybe to suggest I decline or invite her along, but something in my expression stopped him. I rose silently and followed the nurse through the corridor of pale blue curtains. Nathan's room was dim, the lights low. Machines beeped softly. His eyes were open, gaze slow but lucid. "Hey," I said gently. "Hey, you," he replied, managing a tired smile. "Hell of a party." I sat beside him, relief washing through me. "They say you'll be okay," I said. "No permanent damage. They also say I got lucky," he murmured. "That if I'd had more alcohol, or a higher dose." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. We sat in silence, not awkward, but heavy. "I remember everything," he said after a while, "at least up until the room started spinning. And I remember what you said, that we switched glasses." I nodded. He swallowed. "She meant it for you." "Yes." He closed his eyes briefly. "Jesus, I don't think it was to kill me," I said, though the words tasted like rust, just something to make me look unstable, embarrass me, maybe ruin my job, my image. "You know, Vanessa, her weapons are subtle." "Not anymore," he said flatly. "She's not hiding behind her charm now." His voice cracked. "I loved her, Miranda. For years, I tried to protect that version of her, the version I married. But tonight, there's no version of her I can recognize anymore." I leaned forward. "Then you have a choice now." He turned to me slowly. "The police asked if I want to press charges, and I asked, holding my breath. I don't know, he whispered. What would it fix? She'll lie, spin it, make it about betrayal. She will. But it wouldn't be about fixing her. I said carefully, it would be about freeing you. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he stared up at the ceiling. When she saw us talking, I could see it in her eyes. She thought I was already gone. Maybe this was the only way out. I sat back, my thoughts spiraling. Nathan, I didn't switch the drinks to hurt you. I swear. I know, he said. Well, you still did. There was no malice in his voice, just truth. And it landed with more weight than shouting ever could. You needed proof. He continued. So, did I. Maybe that's what it took both of us, needing to know what she was capable of. He reached for the water beside him, drank slowly. I'm not pressing charges, he said finally. But I'm leaving her. I'm calling a lawyer the minute I'm out of here. I can't pretend anymore. I won't. I exhaled, not sure if it was relief or grief. What will you tell people? I asked. The truth, he said, without hesitation. That I stayed too long with someone who was hurting me. That I didn't recognize the damage until it nearly killed me. And Vanessa, that's her truth to face. I'm done carrying it for her. As I left his room, the hallway seemed longer than before, as if I'd entered this building one person and was leaving another. In the waiting room, Vanessa stood when she saw me. Hope flickered in her eyes. Well, she asked. I shook my head. He's leaving you. Her face collapsed. You did this, she said. Voice small. I replied. You did this. I just stopped letting you pretend otherwise. She looked like she might say more, but then sat down again, deflated, diminished. I walked outside into the pale morning light. The sky was bleached and bare. The air smelled of antiseptic and jasmine from the hospital's landscaped hedges. And somewhere deep inside me, something uncoiled. Not triumph, not peace, just space. Sunday dinner came with silence. Not the usual kind that accompanies chewing, or the clatter of utensils. This was something else weighted, airless, like the whole house was holding its breath. The dining room table looked the same as it always had. Polished oak, linen napkins folded just so. The same silver candlesticks we only brought out for holidays. But the mood, funeral. Vanessa sat across from me. Smaller somehow, she'd lost the high-gloss armor, no designer dress, no manicured nails, just jeans, a plain blouse, and dark circles under her eyes. I couldn't remember the last time she'd looked like a person instead of a performance. Dad cleared his throat and began, sounding more like the professor he used to be than a father. We're here because this family is fractured. And ignoring that won't heal anything. No one spoke. Vanessa, he continued, turning toward her. We need to understand what you were thinking. She didn't cry. I almost wished she would. Instead, she stared down at her water glass and said quietly, I don't have a good explanation. Mom placed a hand over hers. Try anyway. Vanessa inhaled deeply, then looked up not at them, but at me. All my life, I've felt like I was running behind you, she said. Not in grades or accomplishments. In belonging. You were always the one people liked, the one they protected. I nearly laughed. You made my life hell. I know, she said. And I didn't care, because making you small made me feel bigger. She looked at Dad now. I used to think I had to earn love by being the best, the most impressive. But when I couldn't, when I saw people care about Miranda just for being herself, it felt like theft, like something was being taken from me. You think love is limited? Mom asked, voice trembling. I didn't know any better, Vanessa whispered. By the time Nathan started pulling away, I panicked. And then I saw him confiding in Miranda, laughing with her, touching her hand. Her voice cracked. I felt erased. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, I didn't see my enemy. I saw the girl who used to cry in the dark when our parents fought downstairs. The girl who panicked before piano recitals. The girl who had no idea how to feel loved unless she was winning. You drugged me, I said. Not accusingly, just fact. I did, she admitted. I put Ativan in your drink. Just one pill. I didn't think it would hurt you. Just make you loopy. A little off. I wanted people to see you the way I did, flawed. Vulnerable. You never thought I already was, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You never noticed that I was just trying to survive you. Vanessa closed her eyes. I never noticed anything but my own fear. Mom was crying now. Dad looked like someone had carved a hollow into his chest. Vanessa straightened, like she was bracing for impact. I'm seeing someone now, a therapist. 3 times a week. She says I show signs of borderline personality disorder, emotional dysregulation, black and white thinking, unstable sense of self. She's not wrong. No one interrupted. I know that doesn't excuse what I did, she added, but it's helping me understand why I did it. And I'm committed to getting better. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to reach across the table, take her hand, and forgive her like I used to, but I didn't. I appreciate the apology, I said, but I don't trust you. Not yet. Her shoulders sank, but she nodded. I want to rebuild something, she said softly. With you. With the family. I know it'll take time. Dad leaned forward. We'll support both of you, but there are consequences for betrayal. We can't protect you from them. I'm not asking for protection, Vanessa said. I'm asking for accountability. There it was. Not perfect, not redemption, but a beginning. 6 months passed. I didn't mark the date of the anniversary party's collapse on my calendar, but my body remembered. I woke that morning with a tightness in my chest I couldn't name, like my ribs had fused together overnight. The city outside my window moved on. Oblivious cars honking, kids biking, the world in motion. But for me, something had stilled. That night had unraveled more than a marriage. It unraveled a story I'd been telling myself my whole life, that I was the good one, the stable one, the victim of a sister's cruelty. And while all of that was partially true, it was also too simple. Real damage doesn't come in black and white. It comes in shades of silence and choices. Vanessa and I had been attending family therapy. Awkward, messy, sometimes infuriating. Mom was always the peacemaker. Dad, the reluctant referee. But slowly, painfully, we'd started untangling the knots between us. Not just from the anniversary, but from childhood. From the 1,000 paper cuts that shaped us into women who'd learned to distrust love. But I hadn't seen her alone until today. Vanessa asked to meet at a quiet cafe, neutral ground. No witnesses, no referees. Just us. When I arrived, she was already there, seated near the window, hands wrapped around a ceramic mug like it was the only thing tethering her to the earth. She wore jeans, a cardigan, no makeup. Her hair was tied back simply. Thanks for coming, she said. Eyes cautious. I nodded and sat across from her. For a few moments, we were quiet. Then, how are you? Really? I asked. She exhaled. Better than I deserve. That was new. A humility I hadn't heard from her in years. I still talk to my therapist twice a week. She continued. Still journaling. Still learning to sit with feelings instead of acting on them. I could see it. Her voice was slower, more careful, not calculated, just deliberate. And Nathan, I asked. She didn't flinch. We haven't spoken. He finalized the divorce last month. We split everything. The house is gone. I'm renting now. I studied her face. There was pain there, but not panic. She wasn't unraveling. She was living in the ruins, rebuilding brick by brick. He's seeing someone, she added quietly. I found out through a mutual friend. She looked up at me. It hurt, but it also made sense. He deserves peace. I nodded. He does? We were quiet again. Not awkward this time, just heavy. I know I can't erase what I did, she said, and I wouldn't ask you to pretend it didn't happen. But I want to show you I'm different. I didn't say anything. I've been offered a job in Seattle, she added after a pause. New firm, new coast. It's a good opportunity. My stomach twisted, unexpectedly. Are you leaving? I think I should, she said. Not to run away, but to give you space, to give myself space. My therapist says geographical distance can help break old patterns. And honestly, I think I need to learn who I am outside of this family. I didn't argue because she was right. When would you go? Next month. If I take it, I looked at her. Not the version I'd grown up with, or fought against, or feared. Just Vanessa, as she really was. You should go, I said, and keep doing the work, but not for me, for yourself. She blinked, then smiled a small, broken, beautiful thing. As we left the cafe, she hesitated. Would it be okay if I hugged you? That question, more than any apology, told me who she was becoming. I nodded once. The hug. Different. I saw Nathan again, once, purely by coincidence. A downtown coffee shop. He was in line ahead of me, dressed casually. Lighter somehow. He looked back, smiled a real smile this time. No weight behind it. No apology. We spoke briefly. He'd moved into a condo near the river, started therapy of his own, said he was learning to trust himself again. That every day felt like reclaiming breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He didn't mention Vanessa. He didn't need to. We both knew some connections sever clean. Others just fray until they disappear. As for me, I started dating someone Daniel, a quiet school principal who doesn't flinch at honesty. We go slow. He listens. He never tries to fix me, only asks thoughtful questions and gives me space when I need it. Once, he asked about my family. I told him the truth, edited, but honest. There's love there, I said, but also scars. We're trying to treat both. Some days, I miss Vanessa in strange, untraceable ways. Not the cruel, theatrical version, but the girl I used to build pillow forts with. The one who secretly braided my hair when I fell asleep watching TV. The one who tried so hard to be loved. She mistook destruction for power. I hear from her occasionally. Short texts. A photo of a Seattle sunset. A quote from therapy. She signs them all the same way, one step at a time. And that's what I'm doing too. There's still pain, still guilt. The memory of Nathan's glass touching his lips. Of my choice in that moment, it doesn't vanish. It lingers just beneath the skin. I know I crossed a line that night. I know I became something else, not a victim, not a monster, just a woman pushed past her limit. People like to draw neat lines between justice and vengeance, between good and bad. But I've lived long enough to know life rarely offers clean distinctions. Sometimes there's just the truth and what we do with it. And the truth is this. Vanessa tried to poison me, and I let her poison reach someone else. I watched, I didn't stop it. And yet, I also broke the cycle. That glass shattered more than trust. It broke the illusion we'd all lived under that family always means love. That blood always means loyalty. That pain can be ignored if it wears a smile. Sometimes it takes something violent, not in fists or screams, but in consequence to reveal who we are and what we need to become. Vanessa is healing, Nathan is free, and me, I'm learning to live without waiting for the next betrayal. The next time someone offers me a glass, I'll look them in the eye before I take it. And if I sense danger, I won't just switch drinks. I'll walk away. Because survival isn't just about endurance. Sometimes it's about choosing peace over the satisfaction of revenge, even when revenge feels deserved, even when it feels earned. Because the price of becoming the monster to defeat one is becoming one. And I'm not willing to lose myself anymore.